911 system and what to expect if you ever need a call. When 911 is used effectively and promptly, the public gets quicker response time and immediate assistance within just a few minutes. Do any of you know what a true emergency is?
When somebody's dying.
That is a true emergency. According to dictionary.com, emergency is defined as a sudden, urgent, usually an unexpected occurrence or occasion requiring immediate action. For use of the 911 system, an emergency is any situation that requires immediate assistance from police, fire, or EMS. Now that we all know what a true emergency is, I'll be discussing with you today when you should call 911, when you don't need to call 911, and things to keep in mind if you ever need to use the 911 system. You should call 911 if there's a fire. If a house is on fire or a vehicle fire, any fire that's not a controlled burn needs to be used for 911. To report a crime, especially if a crime is in progress, a robbery in progress or a robbery that occurred, a burglary, or you come home and your door's open, you don't know if anybody's still inside, those are all 911 purposes. If you hear gunshots, you should as well call 911. You don't exactly know the source from where the gunshots are coming from, but the more calls we get, the more information we get. We can piece to piece that information and hopefully narrow it down to where it's coming from. If there's an automobile accident, a car crash, especially if somebody isn't injured, you should call 911 to report that. A medical emergency is another situation that 911 needs to be used for. If for any reason you have a family member who's having difficulty breathing, that would be a good example of a medical emergency. For example, I'm going to reference to 911.gov. Their definition of an emergency, a medical emergency, is when someone is unconscious, gasping for air, having difficulty breathing, an allergic reaction, chest pain, uncontrollable bleeding, or any symptom requiring immediate action. When you should not use 911, and you should refer to your local authority non-emergency line, would be if you need to report traffic light issues. Any malfunctioning traffic light or a sign down or a stop sign missing, you should use your non-emergency line to report those things. Peace disturbances as well are important and need to be reported, but on the non-emergency line. For instance, a barking dog or loud music or a loud party. Those are things that are important and need to be reported, but not on the 911 system. Civil matters are another issue that need to be reported, but not on the 911 system. Child custody exchanges or landlord-tenant issues. Those are all civil matters that are important and need to be documented, but not on 911. Things to keep in mind when using 911. If you have a misdial, if your cell phone pocket dials, do not hang up. Always stay on the line to explain that there's no emergency. Be prepared to answer any and all questions the operator may have, whether or not it's a misdial or a true emergency. Follow instructions step by step. In some cases, this can save a life. For instance, if they're giving you step-by-step instructions for CPR for an unconscious subject, you need to follow those step by step and listen carefully. And if you don't understand something, definitely ask so you can make sure you get it done correctly. Always keep in mind when you use 911 and it's a non-emergency, you could possibly be preventing somebody who has a true emergency to get through on the lines. I'd like to share with you the Missouri State Statute. Chapter 190 is for emergency services. The Missouri State Statute was last revised on August 28th of 2012. Chapter 190 is emergency services. Any county that has established an emergency telephone service pursuant to Section 190 shall be unlawful for any person to misuse the emergency telephone service. Emergency means any incident involving danger to life, property that calls for an emergency response, dispatch of police, fire, or EMS, or any other public safety organization. Misuse of the emergency telephone service includes, but is not limited to, repeatedly calling the 911 for a non-emergency situation, causing operators or equipment to be in use when emergency situation may need such operators or equipment. Repeatedly meaning 3 or more times within 1 month. Any violation of this section is a Class B misdemeanor. No political subdivision shall impose any fine or penalty of any owner of a payphone or the owner of a property upon which a payphone is located. Calls for the emergency telephone service made from a payphone on a property should not be fined to the property owner. Any such fine or penalty is hereby voided. So for instance, if break time has a payphone, they cannot be charged for a Class B misdemeanor due to misuse of the 911 payphone service. Now, hopefully by now, all of you have a good understanding, if you didn't before, on when to use 911 or when not to use 911, and that it can be used, when used correctly, it can be very effective. As I pointed out earlier, when to call 911, when you shouldn't call 911, and things to keep in mind when you call 911 are all very important steps. When not taken correctly, it hinders the response and effectiveness of the 911 operator and responders for the public use.